Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Queen & Company just released 4 border die sets. Each set includes 4 different designs, and currently you can purchase all 4 sets as a bundle for $44.95. So let me just show you a closer look at each of the dies. This first set is the curvy borders, and all of these dies have a nice faux stitch design. Next is on point borders. Lots of scallops, and then you also have just the straight line. Next is the scalloped borders. I love the different sizes on this set. So you have the really big scalloped all the way to that real small one. And then I don't have the packaging on this set because I've already used it, but this is the first set that was released called Simple Borders. All of the border dies measure 5 3/4 inches in length. So they'll work perfectly if you're doing a horizontal or a vertical card. I will include links in the description box for this border die bundle along with each of the sets individually in case you don't want to purchase all 4. And since I just couldn't wait to use them, I have 4 cards to share with you. My first card, I'm using the Happy Harvest paper collection. I selected a nice muted pattern paper for the background, and then I'm layering this on some dark brown cardstock. So I'll put my card front onto my card base, and next I'm going to use the large banner from the foundation die set along with one of the new scallop border dies. And I cut that one out using some of this brown polka dot paper, and I just trimmed off the end so that you would only see the little scallops. I didn't want one of them ending like in the middle of a scallop. And then I just put that underneath this banner. I'll just go ahead and adhere it on my card front, trying to make sure I get it nice and straight. I love all of the faux stitching on these dies. Since I'm using the Happy Harvest paper collection, I decided I'd use the kit as well. So this maple leaf is part of the Happy Harvest shaker kit. This is one of Queen & Company's kits that was released last year in the fall. Love this kit. So many beautiful shaker images. I cut out the leaf frame using some of this reddish pattern paper, and then I also want that same pattern paper in the background. And since this is an older kit, there isn't an outline die set. I used the inside foam piece that you would pop out of this leaf to trace this background paper, and then I just cut a little bit outside of those pencil marks. That way it's nice and covered and you can't see any of those other pattern papers through the shaker. So while I'm letting that glue dry, I work on my sentiment. Stamped the fall greetings on one of the stitched banners. This is part of either set one or 2 of the foundation dies. I always get them mixed up. Layered that in some more of this brown cardstock. So now that my glue is dry, I'm going to add my shaker toppings. I have some of the red pearlies and then some of the orange jelly gems. Go ahead and seal those all in place with a piece of the acetate. And then I'll use some liquid adhesive to attach the little frame. So the stem of the leaf does hang off of the end. You could add just a real thin piece of foam underneath that, but I don't think it's really going to move too much, so I was fine with it. I just used some really thin foam squares to pop up that sentiment banner. And now I'm going to pull out some of the bling. So I have 3 different varieties using the orange bullseyes, some of the brown pearls, and then teal petite posies. I always try to select bling that coordinates with the paper collection that I'm using. And then just one last thing, I'm going to add just a thin strip of the pattern paper on the inside of the card, just for some extra detail. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 1. So now moving on to card number 2. Again, I'm going to use the Happy Harvest paper collection. And then this time I'm using one of the curvy dies. To me it looks like a hill. So it's got that nice stitching on it. So I cut it out with some of the brown polka dot paper, put that on just some of this blue cardstock, and then I'm going to layer this on some of the glitter paper. This is the teal color from Queen & Company. And since I always find that things don't stick as well to glitter paper, I'm going to use some red line tape along with some liquid adhesive. That way I know it's going to all stay in place. So it just gives that little bit of sparkle on that outside matting. And then I pulled out the blue trio trims. Using one of the twines, I'm going to wrap it around the bottom of the card twice. I'll adhere those ends with some red line tape. And then I'll have another piece cut just to tie a bow later on. But first I'm going to go ahead and put my card front onto a card base, and I do use a lot of adhesive. I always want to make sure everything stays attached to my card. So I'll just tuck that piece of twine for now, and then I'm going to work on some images. So I'm going to use some of the foil along with the gloobers. So these are basically like a red line tape, but a big sheet. So I cut out a small piece and I'm just attaching it onto some heavyweight white cardstock. So I pull off that white back on the gloober sheet. And now to remove the top, the little clear backing on the gloober sheet, the easiest way is to take just some regular Scotch tape, rub it on the end, and just peel it right off. Super simple. Now generally I die cut my images first and then add the foil, but I thought I'd do it the other way to see if that works as well. And it does. So I'm attaching the foil onto this little rectangle piece. And if there are any little spots where the foil didn't adhere, you can just take that leftover foil and just press it back on all of those little spots, because they'll still be just that little bit sticky because it didn't pull off the foil. And that'll just fill in all those extra spots. So I use the pumpkin die that's included in the Happy Harvest kit, and I actually did 2 of them. I just showed one just for time. And it has the frame and then has the inside of the pumpkin, and I wanted both of them. And I'm trying to keep them together, so I'm just putting some red line tape on the back side. Put some small pieces on those edges. And then I have the little stems cut out in some of this really dark brown, and I'll just attach that right to that red line tape, remove all of the backing, and then add some more liquid adhesive. So I'm building a little scene since I have my hill using the curvy border die. I have my 2 pumpkins cut out with this beautiful foil. Kind of has a copper look to it. Sort of like a specialty paper almost, since it has the foil look. And then I wanted to do one more. The 3rd pumpkin, I'm going to make a little shaker. So I cut it out using some of the polka dot pattern paper. And then this time I attached the foam directly onto some more of the pattern paper, and then just did a fussy cut all around the edge. Once again, this kit doesn't have the outline dies yet, but you can still make it work. And then I did just put that little piece of white cardstock on the very bottom of the pumpkin, simply because it's hanging off of those other 2 layer pumpkins, and I didn't want it uneven on the card. And now while I let that glue dry, I'll go ahead and tie a bow with the twine. Then I'll stamp a sentiment. So I cut out an oval and then a little scalloped oval. I'm using the thankful, grateful, blessed sentiment. And then I'll use some of the red line tape and liquid adhesive just to adhere that oval onto that glitter paper. And then I went and just trimmed off the very end of it, just that right hand side, because I'm going to have it flush on the card, just right up against the edge. And I popped it up using some foam dimensional tape. So now I know my glue is dry, I can add some toppings. So I'm using some jelly gems and then also some pearlies in the new ombre color. It's really pretty. Go ahead and seal all of that in place with the acetate. Put my little pumpkin frame on. Then I'll hold that in place for just a little bit with an acrylic block, and I almost forgot to put that 3rd pumpkin stem on. Glad I remembered before the glue dried. And I decided just to use a couple of different embellishments just because I didn't want to disturb the scene that I created. So I just have some of the brown pearls and then some of the teal petite posies. I'll put that little strip of pattern paper on the inside of the card, and there is my finished card. I just love the beautiful shine on those foil pumpkins. So now moving on to card number 3, I'm going to change up the paper collection. I'm using some papers from the Fright Fest collection, and then the star paper is from the Halloween Hoopla collection. So for this card, I'm using 2 of the On Point border dies. So I have the scallop one that I'm going to cut out of this orange and black polka dot paper, and then just the straight one out of the purple houndstooth design. I think that's what that pattern's called. So I have both of those cut out, and I'm going to layer the purple on top of the orange, so you're just going to see that thin strip of it. Then I'll layer all of that onto the card, and I just did a visual measurement on where I needed to cut this purple pattern paper so that it would fit perfectly on my A2 size card. I'm going to use some of the orange trio trims. This is the one in the middle that has this beautiful sparkle design to it. It is a little bit thicker than the twine that's on that set, but I love that beautiful sparkle. So I wrapped it twice around the top of the card, and then I'm just adhering it in place using some red line tape. And because it is on the thicker side, I'm also going to add a strip of red line tape on the very top, just so that the top part of the card doesn't pop up off of the card base. So later I'll tie a bow, but first I'm going to adhere a scallop circle die cut, and I use some white pearlescent paper for that. Slipped just that top edge of, I guess it's, I don't know if it's really an edge, but the top of that scallop circle underneath the twine. Then I went ahead and tied my bow. Now I'm going to use the Halloween Sentiment Stacker Kit. This is one of the new kits from Queen & Company. It includes 3 word sentiment dies along with the outline. So for the outline on this card, I used the purple glitter foam, and then I cut out the word candy just using some green cardstock that coordinate really nicely with the green stars in that pattern paper. And I used some of Queen & Company's liquid adhesive to attach that candy word onto the glitter. Then I cut out one of the sentiment banners, and the kit does include a small stamp set, so they go nicely with the large word dies. So this one is "Give me something good to eat." I thought that went perfectly with the candy, and I love all of these bright, very Halloween colors. And I'll just finish off the card with some embellishments. So I have some lollies, some of the iridescent bubbles, and then also some jelly gems. Add that little pattern paper strip on the inside of the card, and this card is all finished. This is card number 3. Now moving on to card number 4. I bet some people are wondering, how come I haven't used a card sketch yet? So I did pull one out just so everybody wasn't wondering if I wasn't feeling well. I'm using Operation Write Home sketch number 146. And again, I am switching paper collections. This is one of my favorites. This is the all bundled up paper collection. So for this card, I'm going to use the wavy border die. I used the die on that bottom edge of this pink polka dot paper. And I'm going to layer all of these card pieces using some of this dark navy blue cardstock. And I used some of this blue tone-on-tone paper for this little banner strip that goes across that polka dot paper. I'll go ahead and put my card front onto a card base. And for this card, I decided not to use any of the shakers that are included in the all bundled up kit. Instead, I'm going to use the shaped shaker tag kit, since I haven't used it yet and I've been wanting to, so I thought this card was perfect. So I took the foam piece of that tag, stuck it onto some of the pattern paper, and then just did a little fussy cut all around, just so I could have that background of the tag all filled with this beautiful snowflake paper. And then I did put a couple pieces of cardstock just on that upper portion of the tag. That way it laid nice and even on the card. Adhere that using some liquid adhesive. And since I will be putting a sentiment over the middle, or kind of the lower part of this tag, I didn't want to lose all of these little shaker toppings. A previous card, I didn't do that, and I had to really fill the shaker, and it kind of seemed like a waste of toppings. So this time I'm putting a piece of foam in the middle, so you're not going to see this later, but that way I don't have to use quite as many shaker toppings in my card. So first I'll stamp my sentiment, and this is a fun winter sentiment, wishing you a season of frosty fun. Cut some little fishtails on the ends. These are really narrow because I didn't want it to be too wide. I will layer that sentiment onto some of the blue cardstock. Again, cut my little fishtails, and see how that's going to lay right on top of that little foam piece on the inside of the tag. So now I can go ahead and add some of the toppings. And for this card I have some of the jewels along with the pearlies. So I made sure to put toppings in each of those little compartments. Peel off the little backing so I can attach my acetate. So now everything is sealed in place. And I did put just a little piece of cardstock on the little round piece of the tag where you would tie a string, just in case I was going to put a string through there. I didn't want the paper to rip. So I kind of just reinforced it with some extra cardstock. So attach my sentiment. And then I did change my mind. I didn't want to put it through the hole. Instead, I'm just going to tie a bow around that little top piece. I don't know what you call that on the tag. I just used some of the pink twine. I'll trim off the ends after I fuss with my bow just a little bit more here. And then I cut out a small banner using some of the, I think it's this pink, maybe it's a purple. It's the Queen & Company glitter paper. Just going to put that in the upper right hand corner, and then I can attach all of the bling. So I have 3 different types again. I have the white bullseyes. I have some of the pink candy shop bubbles, and then some of the navy petite posies. I'll put the little strip of pattern paper on the inside of the card, and this card is finished. So that is card number 4. I just love the colors in this paper collection. So here's just a quick recap of the 4. Well, actually I made 8 cards. I did a double of all of them. So the 8 cards I made using some of Queen & Company's brand new border dies. The new dies are so much fun and really add a lot of interest to your cards. So I do have links in the description box if you are interested in purchasing any of the products that I showed. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.